Welcome to More Than a Few Words, Marketing Conversation for Business Owners. This is your host, Lorraine Ball, and this is a special conversation. It is the first in my new series called What Went Wrong. Did a survey, asked people what they wanted to hear, and one of the things that you told me is you wanted more real stories about entrepreneurs' experiences. And so I'm inviting back some of my favorite guests, including Emily Aborn, to join me and talk about what went wrong. Emily is a copywriter, speaker, and podcast host, and you can read more about her in the show notes and in our original conversation. Emily, welcome to the show.
Lorraine, thanks for having me back. I love that I get to be the christening guest.
Well, I can say this now. When we were recording, we had a little bit of a what went wrong.
True story.
And we made it work. And you don't ever get to find out what that was because the episode was perfect. But it was just such a relaxed conversation. I thought, you know what? That would be a really cool spinoff. So I invited you back. I love your energy. And I thought you could talk about what went wrong.
I could write a book on what went wrong. Sometimes I joke that if I had a memoir, it would be called like The Best Laid Plans. And then the subtitle, Go Awry. Every time.
Yes, I have more than a few of those. And the further you get from them, the easier it is to laugh about them. But in the moment, you're just sort of like, oh, this was not what I hoped for.
So I think that's a good place to start. I always can see a gift in what went wrong. Like you can always look back. I truly cannot have a regret because I look back and I say, if it had not been for that, I would not be here or I would not have met that person. However, I'm very open and honest about like owning a failure and saying, you know what, that was actually a flop because the goal I started with, I did not achieve. So then that is a failure in my book. How I want to rewrite that to be like a lesson and like, you know, a learning experience and a growth opportunity, that's fine. But I always kind of start with that because I think sometimes we forget to like just mourn it, like mourn that something did not go the way that you were hoping that it went.
Oh, yes, because you're at the moment that something goes wrong, I think you're always so caught up in I got to fix this. And so you're really focused on damage control and plugging the holes. And then you're on to the next thing.
Yeah.
And it was a really good idea. Maybe it wasn't executed right. Maybe it wasn't the timing. But I love that lesson of sometimes you have to mourn the failure in order to really move on.
Yeah. And that was the experience for me. And so that's kind of part of what went wrong. So I'll start. Like I went to school for health education, community health education. My goal was to like be a health teacher in colleges and schools and things like that. So in my mind, every single thing that I chose to do from that point on, from graduation on, had to fit that health education box. So I found myself working for a lot of chiropractors, a lot of health practitioners, a lot of like just a lot of health food store people in that industry. Everywhere that I went, the common thread was that I would always end up doing their marketing. I would always end up writing their emails. I would always like that was always my role, but I didn't acknowledge it, right? It was like not even in my awareness. I was just trying to make everything fit this health education box. That also said, I did not want to be working for somebody else. That like my goal was to start my own business. So when my husband and I don't even think we were not even married yet. We decided to open a business together. We opened a non-toxic organic mattress store. So like there are actually quite a lot of toxins in our bedding products and in our home furniture and things like that. So we were like, okay, we're going to raise awareness about that and counter that. Now, going in, it was like a big investment and we had to get a loan from the bank. We had to like create the branding and it was a huge thing. We had to get a store, outfit the store, renovate the store. Like it was a big all-in life decision. And on paper, that looked very successful. After starting at year 2 and then like into year 4, it looked really good. Like everything on paper was fine. Inside, I was not fine. I was like, I don't want to be doing retail. I actually don't think health education is something I'm interested in for other people. I think it was just like I wanted to learn about health for myself. And so I had this moment, like this wake up moment. In fact, a friend called me from her job and she was like so sad. Like she had like made the wrong life decision and things like that. And I just woke up in that moment. I'm like, oh my gosh, life is so short. Like, why are we doing something that we don't want to be doing? We were both like 33 years old at the time. So I had to come home to my husband and be like, I think we need to close the store.
Oh my God. Oh my God. You know, especially after you've put everything, I mean, and this is not just a $500 advertising campaign. This is
No.
a huge investment. It's a huge commitment of time. And oops,
We're
I hate
talking
this.
to the tune of a mortgage and a half. You know, it was a
Mhm,
lot of
mhm,
money. Yeah.
mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. So we went, I remember the day very vividly. We went for a walk in the snowy woods of New Hampshire and we talked it all out. And we made the decision together because it was actually, he also has a interior and exterior painting business. So he was like doing two things. And I was really the only one like in the store all the time. And he was doing kind of like outside pieces. So we talked it all out. We made the decision together. And then we mapped out what that looked like. What we didn't consider was like, what am I going to do next? So I had to sit there and say, okay, what now? And a mentor at the time gave me like some really amazing advice because part of my problem was that I was isolating myself in this store. Like I was not getting out there and doing anything. I lived, breathed, and slept literally.
Slept in the store. Yeah.
I'm not.
And part of the problem, I'm guessing, is that this is not a high traffic business.
Oh, you are so correct. You
And I mean, I get a sense from you that you're there's a part of you that's extroverted. You may not be 100% extrovert, but you love the interaction and the energy. And yeah, let's put you in a room with mattresses and no people. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, so on the weekends it was busy and then on the weekdays like it was just day in day out boredom. Now, had I been smarter, I would have probably like done something on the side, you
Mhm.
know, like writing or marketing or something like that, but I wasn't. So I learned the hard way. So I make my transition out and basically the way I went about it and I think this was great was meeting a ton of people and hearing a ton of other people's stories and seeing what they're doing in their businesses. I also got my real estate license and I was like, okay, that's not for me. I started making a list of like all the pieces I loved about my own business. And then I would offer to do those for other businesses. And it's really what landed me to where I am. But I want to
Mhm.
say one more mistake I made along the way. I opened a second, in addition to my copywriting business, I had a second business and it was giant. It was a membership of like 1,700 free members and then like 100 paying members of this women's entrepreneurship community. I'm not saying that the community itself was a mistake, but the way for me, knowing myself and like how much kind of space and time and focus I need on what I'm doing, it was like 4.5 years that I did that where nobody really even knew that I had a copywriting business because I was so focused on this community, which was bringing in like a fraction of my
Oh,
income, right? So I did it again. I kind of just was like, okay, that's what I'm supposed to do. That's what I'm being told it looks like. And I kind of ignored my own sort of inner compass, I'll say.
oh, okay. So today you've got a successful copywriting business. You have a podcast. You're doing the things that you enjoy. If I came to you today and I was thinking, okay, I'm going to start a business, what lessons did you learn that you would maybe teach me or make me think through before I went forward and opened up a gourmet pet food store?
I would do the work on challenging, but business is such a great personal growth opportunity. I would do the work on asking yourself, like, why you're doing what you want, what you're doing, what impact you want to make in the world, what difference you really want to make in the world. And we're all going to experiment. We're all going to make mistakes. We're all going to kind of messily move around, but really get clear on the things you love to do and the things you do not love to do. And I want to say from the get go, you don't need to say yes to all those things you don't want to do. And a lot of people are like, just take whatever you can get, take whatever comes, right? Follow whatever path opens up. And I'm like, yes, but you're going to learn the hard way if you
Oh,
do that.
absolutely. I think one of the other things I told someone who wanted to open a shoe store, I said, go work in a shoe store.
Oh, brilliant.
I mean, before you start this retail business, you only have experienced retail as a shopper. You've never worked retail. You need to get on the other side of that to find out if you really like it.
Lorraine, I want to just add on to that because I did work in a mattress store exactly like this, which is why I knew the business model was so solid because I had done all their I had done all their behind the scenes and their retail. I knew I hated it. And so I think actually that's what I really want is like once you've experienced it and you know you don't like it, do not keep putting yourself through it. Like there is nobody out there telling you that your path has to look a certain way or
Mm-mm.
that you have to like something that you don't like.
Even I'll tell you what, even if it's your mother,
Yes, even if it's your mother.
even if it's your mom telling you got to go to law school, if it's not you, don't do it. Oh, Emily, I am so glad that your path eventually led you here because otherwise we would not have had this
I know.
conversation.
You are and this is what I mean. There are like so many gifts and I have zero regrets. And if anyone wants to prevent themselves from making the same mistakes we have, there you go.
Well, thank you so much for being my first guest on What Went Wrong. I just love the idea of learning from other people's mistakes. I think there's a lot of opportunity for all of us.
I totally agree with you. Thanks so much for having me back.
Thank you. If you've enjoyed this conversation, be sure to look for the other conversation with Emily on my website, morethanafewwords.com. There you'll find hundreds of conversations in the archives, marketing tips, tools, and so much more. This has been another episode of More Than a Few Words. Thanks for listening. Sweet. That was fun.
Brilliant. That is fun. Yeah, you're going to make these really enjoyable.